Hello everyone, Nordic Beast here, and welcome back to the Shipyard. So it's been a while since I've done an episode, and I thought it was about time. I've been doing a lot of the NID server episodes, which I have one more to post, and then I might take a little bit of a hiatus, simply because of the multiplayer code. The multiplayer code is so bad right now, it makes the game near impossible to play multiplayer. A lot of people say they're not having any issue with it, but anytime I host a game, I'm fine, but anyone joining me, they get that jittery lag of the new code. Vice versa, somebody else hosts, I've been on several people's games, it lags for me, and it's near unplayable. If I join a server, the server is jittery and laggy. I was talking to Sal about that earlier today, and she was having issues. She was, you're able to do stuff, but you have to be so careful, especially in survival. So that will be on temporary hiatus, and same thing with the Glorious Adventures. Last 2 weeks I've been wanting to record that, and I can't because I need the multiplayer code to work. So hopefully I'll get those to you soon. So in the meantime, I figured I'd show off this base here. Now I have been trying so hard to build like an airbase, and I can't. I'm just terrible at it. So I found this on the workshop. This is Semi-Complete Airbase by Starwolf. Absolutely awesome. I cannot wait till he finishes this. He actually has some pretty good work in his, his workshop creations. So look him up on the workshop and check out some of his stuff. Very, very, very cool. One of the main reasons I wanted something to show off. Well, actually here, this ship. This is the Swan. Now I put this out a little over a week ago, and the other night it finally reached the top page of what's popular this week. I was so ecstatic. And then about 10 minutes later, it reached that week and it got knocked off the page. So that was a little bit of a bummer. But so this is the next step up from my Vegan fighter, which actually, real quick, I'll load that up. Yeah, that one. Which a couple episodes back I had posted. Let's go ahead and rotate here. How about, there we go. So if you guys remember this, the idea was I wanted a transatmospheric fighter. I wanted a fighter that could fight in both atmosphere and space. Now, the Vegan, I would say, is a little bit better in atmosphere, but not as good in space. And obviously the opposite for the Swan. Now, the Swan's still usable in atmosphere, but it's better to get some altitude. Let the ion thrusters start to take over. As you see, it has 8 large ion thrusters in the back. All its directional thrusters are embedded, as you see here. Same thing on the bottom and on the side. Now, there's one thing about this that I did that I normally don't do, but I felt like I couldn't find any place to put small thrusters, so I put them inside. So there are 2 small reverse thrusters and then 2 small pointing, back, for helping acceleration, because there is a large there we go. There is actually a large atmospheric thruster here on the back. Like I said, I normally don't do that, but I couldn't find any place where I could put it that it looked right. I didn't want to mess up the look. I mean, like, you look at this atmospheric thruster, it looks pretty good. Like, it's flush into the design, it's not bad. I couldn't really find anywhere else for those, so I embedded them internally since it just blocks space anyway. Now let me go ahead and turn this on. On. There we go. Make sure dampeners, and we'll lift up. As you can see, there is a bunch of atmospheric thrusters underneath. Now, originally, there was only 2 here, and then I put 2 extra in for lifting power. When there's no payload on this thing, it's actually pretty good in atmosphere. Even though there's been a few times where I've flown it, and I was just a little too casual and smashed the thing. It is fully, or not fully, but I'm sorry, unloaded, it's 81,000 kilograms. So it's a hefty bitch. So the only built-in armament are these 4 cannons, and then otherwise it's all merge blocks. And for landing gear, originally all I had were just these 2, but of course when I land it, I would have to lock the gear to keep it held up, and landing gear can still be a little touchy, so I added this one. and it is attached to a piston. Now, of course, pistons can be a little twitchy. I have it connected to a timer block, so take a look here, as well as the lights. So you'll look at the bottom panel here. Number 6 is the timer block. You press that, it retracts and shuts off the lights. Not only does it retract, but go ahead and look up the piston here. Pistons, for many of you, if you know or not, it has the safety lock override, so it locks the piston in place and won't move. That was a safety feature that Keen added to allow the pistons to stop moving so that they won't wiggle and explode at speed. So whenever you're flying this fighter, which I will put a link in the description below to be able to download this, only press that button for retracting the landing gear. Someone in the comments section was talking about basically that the fighter felt useless to them. They had to completely redesign it. I think they're newer to the game because they only had 40 some hours in the game, and he thought that that was the only source of power right here, this small reactor, and that the landing gear would wiggle and explode. Now, I have flown this in multiplayer, and in multiplayer, about 1 out of 5 times, that landing gear wiggles and explodes when you try to retract it. So it kind of sucks. So don't use this in multiplayer right now until the code is better. But otherwise, it is powered by 10 internal batteries and has about 40 minutes of flight time, even in atmosphere, with all these large thrusters, which is more than enough for any fighter mission. In space, it's obviously much longer since you're going to be cruising with dampeners off and things like that. So that's a big thing about it. I ended up mentioning that to him. He never replied, so I don't know. I hope I helped, and I hope that description on the landing gear helps to, make sure you don't blow anything up. Yeah, don't go into the menu, or I'm sorry, don't go into the controls and try to find it or anything. Just use that block. So now I have all these little expansion packs you see here. Gatling gun, which has several internal containers. This here is one of my favorites. 5 reloadable rocket launchers pointing down with a connector on the back. The idea is even in hardcore mode where it's 1-1-1 for inventory, it carries 20 rockets? Yeah, 20 rockets. And you can launch all 20 rockets in a matter of seconds. So if you're carrying 2 of them, that's 40. 40 that you can fire down on the target as you fly over. So this here is a rocket cluster. Now, there's a fighter over there that inspired me to build all this, and in fact, originally it was the inspiration for the Vigan as well, the idea, the concept. And this ended up being an expansion part that he had, just with a couple of light armor blocks on it. And I'm just, yeah. I was like, hey, I'll just put these 6 together, and put it on a merge lock. That works. He was a little bit more creative than me. So this here is an actual bomb, just a dumb dropping, gravity bomb, and it requires power for the warheads to explode. So I had to put a reactor in it. Now this here is a drop tank. It has 2 batteries in it, and that's pretty much it. So you can add up to, well, this can only carry 3 of those total. Basically 1 on each wing, because of the extra blocks on the side, even though they're flat, take up too much space and it won't lock anything into the next merge block that's the same size. So here, real quick, if we come over here, if you look here on this Swan, you see I do have the drop tank as well as the rockets, and that'll fit, but it couldn't fit two drop tanks. Now you could put 1 drop tank on the top if you wanted, but I ended up building this. It's a fighter expansion pack, kind of like what you see in Macross, which I will say Macross and other animes were my inspiration for the design. And I've also designed quite a few fighters similar to this, like my Wolf, which is a forward swept wing fighter, as well as the Raven is another design, which that one was influenced by an anime style fighter. So now we'll take a quick look at this here. This is the Halberd. Now the Halberd is made by username Nemo. Look up his stuff. Find him in the workshop. He is so worth it. Everything he makes is absolute gold. So the first time I saw this, I was thinking, wow, a transatmospheric fighter with script using guided missiles. That's awesome, and it is. It is a really cool design. It is designed primarily for atmospheric use. As you see, like built into it is almost all atmospheric thrusters. It's got the one hydrogen, and then up here, you'll probably notice a very similar design to that one. Well, actually it's vice versa. I saw this and I really liked the design, so I ended up toying with it. Now his, as you see, is two separate packs, a right and a left. I really liked the thruster configuration and made it into one solid pack with 3 extra batteries, as you see there. And I ended up embedding the thrusters, like in the fighter, like my fighter itself. And the outside is pretty much same architecture. It's just a little bit different, but I got like the thruster configuration and the idea from this. So all credit for that goes to Nemo. I have not made missiles yet. I haven't quite figured out the script yet, so that might be the next thing I work on. Now, also, you might notice like a very similar layout. As you notice, like with the Viggen, I went with a different layout. I just decided to go with forward swept wings on this one. So it just kind of ended up this way. I just built it by itself. I had nothing with me for inspiration at the time. I just kind of went with a general layout. But yeah, I wanted something very Macross field. I love Macross or Robotech, if you guys have ever seen that. Great series of, well, shows and movies. So like I said, his is designed primarily for atmospheric use, and then has these thrusters added on. Now, it is heavy. This is 158,000 kilograms, so it is a large small ship. It's getting in large ship territory. Now, one of his cool features is this is, if you notice, there's a camera here, and you can see this little LCD. This actually tells you if the missiles are locked on, so that's like an update thing for it, which is pretty awesome. You might notice he has the guns in the same place. That just happens to be coincidental. That just seemed to be the best place to put them. I wanted them very clustered, which, by the way, on mine, you see how close they are? They hit like a goddamn dump truck. Holy crap. The only issue I have with them is that they can scrape underneath if you nose down, so just be mindful of it. I've had that in a lot of my designs before, like my original modded Valkyrie. So, but yeah, Nemo has a couple other like atmospheric fighters and bombers that use all his different missile designs. He is an absolute genius with missiles. Like I said, check him out. Absolutely amazing. So, alright, let's go ahead and give this a quick fly. I got one on the runway over here, so I will fly one unloaded and then one loaded. So, alright, let's go ahead and power you up. I have, there we go, dampeners. Let's go ahead and thrust up, retract, and off we go. So, as you see, it's a little sluggish. Go ahead and lift off. Once you get up to speed and get some altitude, this thing flies much better with the ion thrusters gaining power as they go. At low altitude, like pretty much at ground level, you only get about a third thrust out of the ion engines. So, like I said, its space performance is far better. But you don't want to be buzzing the tower, so that's a negative Ghost Rider. But once you get a payload, like the loaded one down there, like it's mainly the fighter boost pack that's on the back. Once you get that on there, it adds so much weight, because I mean, look right now, 81,485 kilograms, and its flight capabilities are quite manageable. Sorry about the stutters. But yeah, once you get like that one loaded up, I think is around 110 or 109,000 kilograms. All right, let's line this up a little here. Come on. Don't botch this. There we go. Oh, like a glove. Oh, yeah. So there you go. It's not overly difficult to fly, but if you let it get away from you, you will smash into the ground. So you got to be very careful. It's not a very forgiving aircraft. So that's a big thing about it. But neither is the F-14. The F-14 is big and sometimes ungainly, but if you guys have ever actually seen any footage, like Top Gun, for example, of the F-14 flying, in the right hands, it was an amazing aircraft. So, same thing with this. It's obviously not going to be as maneuverable as smaller ships, but oops, there we go. Make sure I got, yeah, there we go. As you can see, its takeoff is just atrocious with this load, but it actually accelerates a little bit faster because of the extra thrusters and the extra batteries. So that's quite handy. Oh, I need to retract. There we go. Yeah, good. So now with this, you want to be so careful. Now you can still easily break into orbit with the fighter pack on. So, alright, I am going to go ahead and jettison that. Go ahead. There we go. Thank you. So you notice now with just a standard payload, I'm 92,000 kilograms. Far more manageable. Oh, there. There's the thruster pack back there. So, if you notice, this thing is kind of slow in roll rate. It actually has 8 gyros in it, but its directional control is fantastic. It's very, trying to think of the word, like, you know, you can feel it actually move. Like, it's quite nice. It's very responsive is the word I'm looking for, but the roll rate is not, and I think it's because of the, you know, large wingspan and all that. So, not much else I can do about that. Especially with 8. And they're center of mass, but they're at the front. If you notice the engine pods where it bumps up above the wing, they're right in there. So that's pretty much center of mass, just not right in the middle. There's 4 on either side. And yet the roll rate is still slow. So, again, there's not much I can really do about that. Alright, let's get this up from low altitude. I keep dropping in altitude. Come on, go up, 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 up. Like I said, this thing is just terrible low to the ground, especially with payload. So, once we get going, it's much, much better. Especially, oddly enough, this thing's playground is near the edge of the atmosphere. That's where, you know, atmospheric thrusters still help, but the ion thrusters kick in as well. Holy crap, this thing is wicked up there. And most ships don't excel in that area, but man, this thing sure the hell does. And I love the 12 rockets. Oh my god. Let's take a look here. And I think about how much firepower that just kicked out onto like a single target. You know, and then of course the 4 cannons. I used this against a Valkyrie once, and it literally cut the Valkyrie in half in, you know, a couple of seconds. It just, the 4 cannons that close are so powerful. There we go. Let's try to go for, what is that, runway 2, the middle one? That's good. Whoop. I was in the wrong panel. Let's go ahead and come in real quick. So, I'm not sure what I'm going to do next. Like, I feel like as far as fighter tech goes, this is kind of one of the big things I've been wanting to do for so long. Ooh, there we go. Oh, what the? Oh, that's a wheel on the ground. I'm like, what the hell? The author of this base had a bunch of little fighters, the Arrow, and they have wheels, which is actually pretty nice. And looks like one got away from them. So anyway, yeah, that is the Swan. Now, I'll probably continue to make expansion packs for it and parts and whatnot. I gotta say, I love flying this everywhere. I might even eventually make this on the NID server. I tend to make like a personal fighter at some point or another, and I may end up doing that. I might make one without guns, and then I can put payloads for people, like cargo containers and things like that, for the merge blocks. Be able to carry cargo around for people. So even though don't necessarily, or I can just keep the damn guns. I can still do the cargo and eventually go to the alien world and shoot things down, like the cyboids or whatever the fuck they're called, the alien spider things. Yeah. So anyway, let me know what you think in the comments down below. And I think, you know, come to think about this, a while back, I never ended up finishing this, was something to pick up non-atmospheric fighters from a planet and fly it in the atmosphere. I never finished my design. So I think I might have to work on that next. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.